Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Good morning, guys. Hope everybody's doing well.
Indeed.
So please do subscribe both channels, EEARTS and also on Evolutionary, as both have unique offerings, so to speak.
That's a good word. That's a good word.
Yeah, we try to do more news on Evolutionary, but sometimes there's so much news coming out. But then when we do news on EEARTS, like the Hoover Dam one, they demonetize it, of course, because they want to starve out anybody that is not pushing their agenda. And they've demonetized Evolutionary for over 3 years now. So, again, this is a struggle for freedom and for self-dependency, the ability to choose our own way in this world. We do want to thank those that are supporting us over on Patreon. Because of your support, we can still keep going with this. And also on Ko-Fi, where you could do a one-time donation or monthly support, just like on Patreon. So, check this out. This is in Delaware. And, I feel that, unfortunately, we'll probably be seeing more of this going on in the future.
Yeah. Okay, that's all I'm doing is verify that you have it. You got 2 different purchases. Mm-hmm. If you have them, I'm out of here. That's how quick it is. Yeah. Do you have them with you by any chance? Are they? If you can unload them and bring them out, or you can go out to your foyer here, check them out, by serial number, and we're out of here.
Like this?
Yep.
That's it. It'll take 5 seconds.
The reason we're out here is we're obviously gun violence. It's been an uptick, so we want to make sure we've been having a lot of issues with straw purchases. So one of the things indicators that we get is somebody makes a large gun purchase, and then a lot of times we've been there like, oh, those guns got taken. We're like,
so the idea is when you purchase more than 2 guns at a time, it generates a multiple sale report. And he comes to us and we have to check them out. That's all that is. He did nothing wrong. Did absolutely zero. I noticed that you were stopped in Philly, though, right? With one of your guns? Sir?
Yeah.
Okay, that's all I'm doing.
So, yeah, they're going to verify gun purchases. ATF agents and a Delaware state cop show up warrantless at a man's home, demanding to see his firearms. Is it symbolic? That's 46's home state there, right? Yeah, Delaware. And where else will this be happening?
Well, to me, it's right here in our backyard. Now it's in our backyard. We've seen it in places like Canada, Australia, and now it's literally in our backyard. And I see the people who are coming and knocking on doors. They're the ones that they're not understanding that all the rules are going to apply to them too. So this is the power system we need to bring understanding to and break that down so that we are all free. And people they stop tattling on each other. That's what really gets me.
Yes, and again, please do share these videos everywhere and other channels that are sharing truth. And some channels that started out as one thing are now starting to realize the bigger picture. And I'm seeing this in mass with some of the ones that we've been following for years, waking up to what's going on, and they're shocked because they're not CONS piracy channels like this one, quote unquote, supposedly is. In actuality, all we're doing is uncovering that which is hidden until it's too late. And let's not let it get any farther. Let's wake up everybody. We got traces of disturbing foot and mouth disease detected in Melbourne shop, as furious minister promises to hunt down the people responsible amid new measure to stop the virus entering Australia from Bali. Picked up as part of a routine surveillance across Australia. This was found in meat products that were imported from China. And if some of you guys that watch every day, you might have remembered me saying I feel like people are not going to be, you're going to be afraid to eat the meat. Because I do think that's, and I've been getting this for a long time, that's going to be the next thing that is, just like that store Target, it has a little symbol on it. It's the next thing that they're going to make us terrified of not taking into our system. And of course, there are many people very, very divided on whether we should eat meat, shouldn't eat meat. Again, everybody has to listen to their own higher selves and develop that ability to listen to your own higher self, to know what you need to do in this life. I've spent, of the last like 20 years, I probably spent more time vegetarian than not, but at certain times I have, and mostly when we eat fish. But again, in 5D, no, there's no meat consumption up in the higher densities. So it all depends on where you are, what your health is like, and where you want to go. But just from a safety standpoint, I do think that that's going to be something that's going to develop and expand, unfortunately. And I do think also, this is part of the bigger picture. And there is a much bigger covert picture underway here. So, this is disconcerting. And, here you have the agricultural minister, Murray Watts. I want to assure people our systems have worked. We've monitored this. We've undertaken surveillance operations. And they've seized what they think is not safe for consumption, taken it out. We know the bigger picture. We understand the bigger picture. And I personally, again, am not going to eat those frankenfoods that they want us to eat. And I'm not going to eat crickets either. That's just not for me. I'll stick with more simple whole foods, lentils, beans, rice, things like that, fresh veggies that we've grown, because at some point you might not even trust stuff you're getting that's labeled organic anywhere. Again, this is part of what's going on in the bigger picture. Meanwhile, in China, you got tanks out in the street protecting the banks against the people. Yeah, they want to create the scenario where the Chinese people and Russia is going to go to war against NATO and the U.S., yet the people don't want this in whole. Maybe there's some psychopaths, in the population that, would want it. But, unfortunately, most of those too tend to be at the very top of the power structure. But yeah, the average person doesn't want to go to war. And the average person has been suffering for years here all across the globe.
They have, and it's going to continue to get worse. And one of the things I like to try to focus on while we're going through this is finding the positive out of everything. There's plenty of things to point out when it comes to problems. So when we see these problems, we need to kind of automatically focus our brain in finding a solution to the problem, because it's not like they're going to stop. They're not going to stop throwing this stuff at us. It's just their way. It's the totalitarian way, is to just keep going, back off a little bit when things seem to get too riled up, but then go again. So we need to learn how to find solutions to this and situate ourselves in such a way that we are able to keep our sovereignty. But unfortunately, it might be something where we're always having to find a way to find that sovereignty and push back. But in all of this, finding our strengths as well.
And you see, this person got this letter sent to them regarding their farm. They want to know, do you have any livestock? Well, how many do you have? How many cattle? How many sheep? How many pigs? How many goats? How many deer? How many whatever? And they want to know all these different things about their property. How many chickens do you have? How about vegetation, native vegetation, stuff that you planted? They want you to tell them exactly what you have that is edible. This is so obvious. Here you go. Apply for a lump sum to leave or retire from farming. Yeah. This was updated April this year. Yeah, and this is from the UK. Absolutely nothing to see here. No, they don't want anybody growing their own food. Why? Because power control. It's just obvious. This is Off Grid with Doug and Stacy. And Doug has gone... Doug has woke up big time. And here he's talking about U.S. Marshals raiding the Amish over food. Small homesteads next. Yeah, they have 820,000 subscribers. They're a pretty big homesteading channel. And, he was talking about how he knows people that are having marshals come out to them, U.S. Marshals, because they're capable of growing good amounts of food. They don't want us working together. They don't want us out of the system. They want us in the system. They want us tagged, tied, and monitored 24/7, 365, and that's just a fact.
Mm-hmm. And it's the system that they create to hang us up in. So if they go out to ask these people a question about their food and they refuse to answer them, they have already put into place certain policies to fine them or do something else to them. So this is why they've been quietly passing all of these laws all along, so that when we do push back, they will have a way to throw more paperwork at us. And this is why we need a systemless place, a place where we can just be beings and do things according to our intuition, which we were born to do.
This is absolutely a war on humanity, and this war has been going on for a very long time, It's just going to the level now where it's a war on the entirety of humanity. It's been a war against certain different peoples for a very, very long time, especially those that are tied in with Mother Nature, those that have a deeper sense of the oneness of things, those that have a more of a tie to the land itself. And here we see, powered by crickets. Make sure you check your labels. Mm-hmm. Make sure you check your labels. I'm always looking for certain things. Well, we don't eat much as far as processed food, but whenever there's anything that could have something surprising in it, I always check, because they're always adding stuff to things. Just to make it whatever it is, an emulsifier, something to make it blend smoother, and yet it'll be something that's potentially cancer causing, like carrageenan. And now we got to worry about crickets being inserted everywhere. Water cops patrol drought-stricken Los Angeles, searching for violators. Yeah, so, we had the MASK police, now we have the water police. But again, I would hope people are not, watering their lawns, so to speak. Or if they're watering their lawns have been transformed into a food-growing product. Because, again, the system wanted you for years to go call places like ChemLawn and stuff like that. Yeah, please go right ahead. Spread toxins all across your yard, cancer-causing materials, then water them. That gets into the water supply. It ends up making a lot of profits for certain industries as people get sick. Now we're catching on en masse. I mean, there's many of us that have been awake since day one, but there's more and more people that are waking up and realizing that perhaps their own behavior was stuff that was, contributing to this demise and everything that we're seeing. And there was absolutely, from what we've heard from some of our family members over in the UK and in the London area, again, they've never seen anything like this. Absolutely insane fire. And over in the London area, so many houses burnt to the ground. They said, yeah, occasionally you'll get somebody that sets a wildfire by mistake, but this is starting to resemble what we see in California. As you can see here, just right alongside the highway, and houses burnt down en masse. Meanwhile, the globe is either getting divided into places where there's extreme drought or extreme flooding, and there's no middle ground. Is this Mother Nature? And again, now I see so many people that want to defend a particular dogma. Beware of dogmas. We might think an ice age cometh, and then all of a sudden, because we're so against the official doctrine that the elites give us with, human-induced carbon emissions, because we know they're going to carbon tax us. That's part of their plan. That we jump on another bandwagon, so to speak. It's okay as long as we don't become blind and we want everything to fit this particular line of thinking, and it becomes a dogma, because dogmas divide us. And dogmas blind us to seeing other manipulations that can be going on. Sure, there's natural cycles. Sure, there's grand solar minimums. But when you look at a grand solar minimum, for instance, and we'll always give you everything here. We won't, we don't have any agenda other than just simply waking people up. That's our agenda. And so when you go on down and you look at the numbers as far as the sunspots and what's happening, the predicted value 26.6, the actual value 67.5. As we look at these months, again, this one's not quite double. This was February of this year. We jump up to here and we see 84.1, 37.1, 70.5, 42.8. This is not really fitting in with what's been predicted. So again, we have to be aware of that. And yeah, sure, the sun has a lot more power than, all of our cars spewing out carbon and all. But what people don't really recognize in whole is the technology that's out there that they don't see, which is so powerful and really can influence all, just the declassified weather documents alone. Weather modification's been going on for really, if you look at the first documents, 100 years in the open for those that'll look. But what we're talking about is something that's much more advanced than that, where the technology is far beyond what, most people will believe. So, again, we don't want to be caught up in a dogma so much. So, yeah, there are natural cycles that are very, very powerful. And then there are cycles that are induced by technologies purposefully. As we look at the map and more of the country now, again, when you look at yellow, the brighter yellow is abnormally dry. And so when we go beyond that, when you get into this tan, that's drought. That's severe and moderate drought, and the reds are the more severe. So obviously, there's pockets that are extreme, but really already, I don't know. What do you think? 2/3 of the country is probably under some form of drought.
Mm-hmm. They've been very, very busy bees to make sure that these things are coming into us. And it is a really difficult place when you don't want to take on any dogmas. You don't want to have yourself so stuck in a belief system that you don't allow any wiggle room. There is a balance there, and it's not easy, but we do try to position ourselves in a space where we are leaving ourselves open for education. Whenever I see things that have all these policies and procedures and systems and all of these pen marks and dark lines, I probably shy away from that more than anything, because I go using my intuition with whatever I do. I use my intuition, and I think that's just naturally where we are supposed to be. So, I mean, it's not an easy thing that we're kind of putting ourselves into. And I think those that are just the ones that are enforcing these policies and procedures, we need to reach those people, because they don't understand that it's going to be on their doorstep too.
Absolutely. Again, everybody that we see, they're still pawns. As the EU seeks 15% cut in gas consumption, mandatory limits in supply, emergency, it's going to get tough. I mean, the pain threshold is going to be going up, up, up. And here we have Russia labeling Wikipedia as a lawbreaker because they're giving false information. And we've seen that ourselves, that they have things out there, low wikis on, that are not accurate. They're absolutely not accurate. Citing recruiting woes, the Army will shed up to 28,000 troops next year because they can't get enough people to join them. And this, in my mind, is good. If we could have people across the entire globe waking up and saying, why am I going to join the military? Why? When we spend half of our money on basically creating death and destruction. it's a big purpose out there. And again, the military is about policing the citizens of the world in its entirety. We need to learn how to work together and to get rid of the system that just divides and conquers. And here we have one person that, if they win the political position coming up, they say that, and this is up in Canada, they say they will ban federal ministers from attending the WEF. Well, that would be a good start. Of course, I still don't trust anybody that we see up on the political front. And we need to wipe clean the system in its entirety because it's completely corrupted. Yet, yes, recognizing that, we're just a few steps away right now from just total control out in the open, total control. And so let us share this little talk right here and put things into a little bit more of a historical perspective.
And I think we definitely need to see the world that the greedy want to create. All of natural resources in their hands, all of land in their hands. The same billionaires who are telling the farmers, forget the land, take money and leave it, want that land. The same people who say, oh, food is unnecessary, we're going to make lab food, are the very people who are then also investing in land to have real food. It's the ultimate colonization that's happening, and it's condensing everything that's gone wrong. In my view, the witch hunts were really killing those people who lived and taught the life that we are part of nature. The witches were teachers of oneness with nature. They were the ones who were hunted down. And that for a century or 2 centuries, 9 million people killed in Europe. It was a killing of the ecological mind. The colonialism, then the chemical agriculture from Hitler's Germany, the new GMO push, the earlier push, the new push. All of this is combining to say we will disenfranchise you, we will not let you make your living, we will not let you have a livelihood, because with the earth, with her animals, with her trees, we can create life. The fact that people are marching in every country on cost of living should become a deeper question. The right to live.
Absolutely. I think she's stated it very well. And this is what we've tried to tie in for, over 5 years now, the fact that this is the same system. When you look at 50 million people killed by the Inquisition, that's more than Mao killed. That's more than Stalin killed. That's more than, the Third Reich killed. That's a lot of people. And that was all about religion. This is why, again, we talk about dogma so much, because they've used the dogma to destroy anybody opposed to their system. This is the same system. This is the same system. When you look to when the European colonizers came over to the Americas, they killed so many people it changed the climate. Literally, it actually changed the climate. 56 to 100 million people dead because of this. And again, their excuse was they were coming to save souls. In reality, they were coming just for riches and for wealth and for control and power. And you cannot have any vestiges of true freedom. You can't have any places on the planet where people understand that they're part of the planet. They're part of a living, breathing system that is dependent on the whole. These politicians, this system is so parasitic in nature. It's just so obvious.
What I see that they like to do is they like to take their science and their understanding of alchemy and show a few party tricks and say, see, this is the better way of doing things, and then kind of lure other people into doing what they do. And that's, I think, where we need to be very careful to guard against, is that we're not shown any of these party tricks, and we go toward that direction thinking that it's a better thing, because they use our own energy against us. So many people were doing things in accordance to their very best knowledge in the system because they really thought that that was the best thing. They were acting on their own best behavior. And that's the scary part of this. And that's the part where I feel if we shine a flashlight on that, then that is now visible. That is now understood. And people have a true choice whether they want to be a part of this. At least they can see what they're stepping into. Things should be harmoniously done in a way where there's no secrets, there's no trickery, where it's our true sovereign choice and not because somebody is closing the curtain on part of the information.
Absolutely. So how can this all be the same system? Well, there's many clues. If you want to, you could look to the Bible and say 1,000 years to human is just a day to the Lord, right? Just a day. Because, different beings would have different lifespans. And, again, it's that translation of Lord, which, if we go back, or, as far as we go back, the most oldest translation of God is Elohim, which is in the plural, and again, means those that are mighty, those that are powerful. And when we look into these cave drawings from 13,000 BC, 15,000 years ago, looks very similar to what the NAZISs were building, given the information from particular beings on how to, build these actual saucers. Now, is that just a coincidence? What did they really see? Well, again, you got to look at all the evidence. When you look to, like, the Hopi legends, all the indigenous people, it's not just the Southwest USA. The Hopis say they were saved by ant people that came and took them into caves until all the cataclysms were over up on the surface, and then they were told it was okay, you could come back out. You could look to the Zulu that say, we don't come from here, we come from out there. Our ancestors come from out there, pointing up to the stars. And it goes on and on every corner of the globe. This is the knowledge that they want to wipe out. This is why they attack the indigenous people. Because the indigenous people have leftover information from those ages that are not the dark ages. The ages in which we were getting information from benevolent beings, not the dark beings. And again, the prevalence of the Abrahamic tradition is a modern one, obviously. If we look back to the origins of the Abrahamic tradition, again, it's Sumer. Where was Abraham from? Ur of the Chaldees. Where's that? Sumer, in modern-day Iraq. And again, it's all comes from the Anunnaki system. When we look to the Vedas, the Puranas, we see that it was openly acknowledged that there were these wars amongst these groups. One group was called the Devas, that were thought to be benevolent. They teach humanity how the universe works. They teach humanity that God is inside of every one of us, the true God, is the source of all. You don't have to go looking outwards for God. You don't have to look for approval from any priest or clergy or anything. You could just look in. This is the Sanatana Dharma, from which many other traditions, including Buddhism, ultimately come, Jainism, Hinduism. So you have that, and then you have this other belief system which teaches that we're here to serve God. Islam, again, means to submit. To submit to what? To the will of God. Islam tells you that God created humanity to serve him. That's an Anunnaki tale. That's a draconian AI system tale. That's their mindset. Humanity are nothing but slaves, nothing but cattle. Think about the terminology, separating the wheat from the chaff. How many times have people said that? Separate the wheat from the chaff. And then you burn the chaff. Do you understand what you're saying when you're saying these things? People don't understand. They're basically talking about barbecuing themselves. Here's the insanity on such a mass scale. But why? Because, well, who won the acquisition, really? Again, the power structure. The power structure has remained the same. It's morphed, but the indigenous people have been wiped out. Those that were here in the Americas, mostly wiped out. Survivors herded into small little areas where the land is lousy and is not easy to grow on. And the same thing might happen right now in the U.S. as the U.S. citizens might be herded into little camps eventually. When, that red flag gets hoisted on over the U.S. with the stars, that not the red, white, and blue. Again, the same thing that happened to the Native Americans might happen to the people that are living here in the U.S. right now, to create Lebensraum, which was the term the Nazis used for living space, because again, there's so many people in certain countries. Again, China and the U.S. are about the exact same size, yet 1.4 billion people and 330 million people, that's a big difference. But again, it doesn't matter, because the same thing will happen to them whenever it suits them. They'll just wipe that tribe out, so to speak, and hoist another one that will serve their purposes up. So you gotta understand the bigger picture here. This isn't about humanity being divided in so much as it's humanity being manipulated into artificial division.
Mm-hmm. When we look into our soul and we use our intention, these pure entities and feelings that we have and that we send out to the ether is what is very important that we practice and that we utilize. But with the honest understanding of what things are, there are so many things out there that are rituals and spells that we use against ourselves because we were taught these things growing up from a source where we thought was completely innocent. And in most cases, our parents taught us to trust these sources. So we are possibly doing harm when we say things like, "Now I lay me down to sleep." That sounds innocent and sweet until you realize what it really means. But that's why we got to look really deep if we have a belief system that we feel so strong about.
Absolutely. Because, what if you replace the word Lord with Enlil, Enki, or Marduk, or, Agigi, Anunnaki, Draco? Because, that's really what you've been tricked into doing, because you're using a generic term. A real generic term that's not an authentic translation. And it's right there at the same time. You can use this tool that they've used because they've twisted everything so much, but yet you can use it to kind of see, and the truth shall set you free. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood. That's giving authentication to the fact that we're talking about an interdimensional struggle, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this world's darkness, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms. Hello! In the heavenly realms. Where do you think that is? Yeah, it's a different dimension, but it's also out there from other worlds.
Mm-hmm. So these are the things that we talk about. We try to bring light to people because I think that's fair. If you're making decisions with your heart and soul in the full view of light, okay, we all should have that right to do that and not make decisions blinded with partial truths. That's just wrong.
Thou shalt not have any alien gods in my sight. Yes, no foreign gods, no other gods. And we could translate that, and of course they've tried to translate that to mean gods of other tribes. But what are they really talking about? You got to look again and again and again in multiple places, not just the Bible. Get out there and study what other people were saying. It was just openly acknowledged that there were beings that were not from here, that had superior technology and skills. This is why they were called gods. They're not all malevolent. They're not all Anunnaki. They're not all benevolent. There's a mix, and it depends on when and where we are vibrationally, as we've talked about this sine wave. So when we are in a Kali Yuga, in a dark age, that's who is dominant.
Right. And we look at the Dark Age and understanding that light is information. So, how much information are we allowed to have in a Kali Yuga? Very, very little, very little. But also understand that we are coming into a place with the photon belt where we are able to get our hands on more information, more and more information, and bring that to a true understanding in our hearts, in our souls, so that we can make decisions and we're not blinded. But they kind of use this against us so that they can leverage our energy, use our own energy to feed themselves.
So this was Sri Yukteswar, who was the basically the teacher of Yogananda, who brought yoga to the West. And we don't agree completely with his representation, but we feel it's pretty close. And because there are some that believe that these yugas are in millions and millions of years, but there's cycles within cycles. So every cycle has its smaller cycle. And this coincides roughly with the 25,900 and something year cycle of the precession of the equinox. And so that makes a lot of sense to me. So when we're in these dark ages, when we're here in the Kali, who do we have? Well, we have our own humans governing us, because the Anunnaki are not really visible to us right now. We're actually at a spot where we're below them, but we are coming visible within about 20 years. So at that point in time, when you're in this age in here, they will be on the same plane as we are. And then when we move past them, it's, again, we're going out of 3D into lower 4D, and then heading up into middle and upper 4D and heading into 5D as we get towards the golden age, and then descending back down again. When we're up here, who's around us? Well, it's the ones we call the devas, the ones that are benevolent, the ones that actually teach us the truth. It's the age of truth. The fact that, any gods you're worshiping, for the most part, they're not source, because there is one source, which is beyond our understanding. Certainly in these bodies, we can get glimpses of it through deep meditation. We can feel that underlying sense of oneness, because it is a oneness. And source has basically decided to explore its own creation by creating all these different multitudes of infinite numbers of different forms of life to explore its own creation in every single possible way. Because again, if it is nothing but simply consciousness, and it is eternal, which ultimately we are consciousness and we are eternal as well, then you got a lot of time on your hands. So you're gonna be exploring. You're gonna be seeing things from different perspectives. So this is all about what we're exposed to right now. We're coming out of the worst of the darkness, but we do have the added twist that we will have this window where these ones that were amongst us, ruling us as gods on the planet, the ones that we're calling the Anunnaki, they will have a window of opportunity where they can come and just appear to be as solid as you and I. And in fact, some of those ships, like we were talking about, that one ship that was spotted by the International Space Station, some of these beings do come here in a visible 3D manner at this point in time. They can manipulate their vibratory frequencies so that they can materialize in front of us. At this point in time, it wouldn't be too hard for them to do that, and then dematerialize again. And that's just something that can be achieved even by yogis and others of different spiritual pursuits through meditation as well, though it's extremely rare with humans at this point in time. But what's rare with humans in a dark age is not rare in a golden or silver age.
Mm-hmm. Right. So I really hope we've given you guys some things to work with, some things to ponder. I do hope that there's nuggets of information that is going to help your soul grow, because that's what we're here to do. And sometimes it's just not a very popular thing to do when you're trying to shed light all across the board. But we do thank you for all of your support. We are so grateful. You guys have been so good to us, just showing up, people just giving us, helping us out of nowhere, and we really appreciate it. It means so much to us. Thank you so much.
As always, guys, God bless and namaste.
Namaste.